The number of people dying from overdoses surged during the pandemic, reaching its highest point ever. That's according to a new report from the federal government. Fox 12's Sarah Hurwitz spoke with a local recovery center on what contributed to the spike and is taking a look at the numbers here locally.
The Alano Club of Portland tells us a huge factor in all of this was a lack of in-person services and therapy. Organizations like this one had to adapt quickly to help those in recovery, but it was still tough for people in isolation during the pandemic. When the pandemic hit, crucial services for those in recovery changed dramatically.
Our resources are best delivered in person. That is where people find a recovery community. That's where people find support. That's where people find respite from the isolation.
In March 2020, the Alano Club of Portland, the nation's oldest and largest nonprofit recovery services center, shut down. With that, crucial services like support groups and peer mentorships, workshops, and cultural events also went away. Casey Anderson is the director of development. He says the center had to pivot quickly.
How do we get people the care they need, the support they need, the services they need when we can't see them, when we can't all be together in one place?
He says they transitioned to virtual services to make sure that people were still getting help, but he understands that the lack of in-person interaction made it difficult for many in recovery. According to a report from the federal government, 93,000 people nationwide died from overdoses during the pandemic. That is the highest number ever recorded and a nearly 30% spike compared to the previous year. Now, here locally, the Oregon Health Authority says overdose deaths were up nearly 70% from spring 2019 to spring 2020.
It's heartbreaking. I mean, it's heartbreaking because I think everybody felt a helplessness anybody who worked in the mental health and behavioral industry knew what the result was going to be, knew what it was going to be like for people to be isolated from their community, isolated from their care providers.
And while the recovery center is now back open, Anderson says new ways of providing services that were born out of the pandemic will continue.
Well, there are some people who are not comfortable or who are unable to return to in-person care. And so just because the order is lifted doesn't mean, okay, great, you know, all those services that we were able to provide are done. That's not the case. We now need to be able to continue to balance providing equitable care to the communities who need it with allowing people to return to in-person group meetings.
I also spoke with the director of Oregon Recovers. He told me that these national numbers don't give the entire picture and don't factor in deaths related to alcohol abuse. Now, he also said that we did see addiction soar through the pandemic, but we didn't see any prevention measures that were put in place. Reporting in Northwest Portland, Sarah Hurwitz, Fox 12 Oregon.